My Demon is back. We have episodes 11 and 12, and I just want to talk about it and some of the theories that turned out to be true, and some of the darker elements of the show that's really coming out that I'm really enjoying. Hi, I'm Monique. I am the host of Off by Purple Heart podcast, where I talk to you about K-dramas, C-dramas, BTS, and basically whatever else I want to talk about. My Demon has returned, episode 11. I love that we just start off with the happy couple being all coupley and cute, and Guwon seemingly coming back to normal. You know, he's all smug. He's like bursting out through the window, I'm back, you know, and he's like, and he's just really feeling himself, and it's all great and fun and roses. But I'm glad that the show quickly established that he inevitably has changed. He's no longer the self-serving demon that is completely without remorse, and we see a few times in episode 11 that he is starting to get really caught up in his emotions, and that human side is coming out a lot more, especially with the flashbacks. So in episode 11, one of the earlier scenes that I really liked was with this elderly couple, and the wife was suffering from Alzheimer's, and her time was very, very short. And then her husband, who absolutely adores her, ends up striking a deal with Guwon. And I was even thinking, as watching that scene, I was like, oh, this is kind of dark, you know, like here are two elderly people. She's in the last moments of her life, and what the wish of the husband was to Guwon was just for him to be shown as his younger self, because that's the only time that she seems to spark any recognition of who he is when she sees pictures of him when they were young, I guess in their, you know, late teens, early 20s. And she's so far gone advanced in her dementia that she can't recognize her husband as he is today. So Guwon does grant this wish, even though she literally has maybe minutes before she passes away. And then you see through the husband's love confession and just how incredibly overwrought with emotion they are, that Guwon is starting to get affected. And I think that was really great to just implement that this is no longer the same demon that we were introduced to in the pilot episode or episode 1. And it needs to be established because Do-hee, or who he calls Dodo, which I think is so cute, because I think of Dodo Bird, which is actually not the most endearing terminology, but Dodo sounds actually really cute for Do-hee. But it's established now that he has changed. And I love that the god that's in the show, the Ajasi that, you know, was without a home, and you constantly see her like in like the casino, and she seems to be really lackadaisical and happy-go-lucky, but there is a more sinister side to this god, this all-knowing, seeing, omnipresent powerhouse that's in the show. And you definitely get to see more of her dark side in episode 12, which I actually did like a lot more than episode 11, mainly because I love the darker elements in the show. I'm obviously a romance focused podcast, but I do like my fantasy, I do like my supernatural, and I do like that there is a cost for this love that Do-hee wants and Guwon wants. And we definitely get to see more of the nephew, who is completely off his rocker in episode 11, and we get some confessions, and the eldest brother of this family is just completely unhinged, and he gets even more and more unhinged. And now we're getting to see a little bit more glimpses of the wife and what she's allowed to tolerate in her house. And I don't know if the motivation is simply that she likes being a kept woman and doesn't care that her son is being psychologically tortured by his father, you know, her husband. But there's definitely more that kind of dwelled into episode 12. And I think one of the cooler things is getting into like the more darker, innate, sinister elements of the show, because it does get very overtly cutesy and sweet, and I like Guwon having a little bit of grit to him while still loving Do-hee and wanting to burn the entire world down only as long as he can have her, which is really what we get in episode 12. One of the last ending shots that I absolutely loved is like Gu-won dripping in blood. I know that sounds so effed up, but I feel like Song Kang does really well in romance comedies. I love him in romance, so I was never really here for the criticisms, but I do really like him, and I do think he suits darker roles a lot, and I think he really shines when he has that edge. And when you see him like dripping in blood, all I could think was, man, he is overdue for playing a vampire. Like, I need him to play like a vampire who doesn't really have this soft side. He can have this amazing romance, have like this amazing sexual chemistry, but I need him like really dark and loathsome and gruesome, because I just, him with the blood. Oof. Anyways, getting into episode 12. Episode 12, I just finished watching, and that was a darkness that I was definitely looking for. We get confirmation of, once again, the nephew being completely off his rocker, and unfortunately, towards the end of the episode, we do see, and this is of course going into spoilers, that he actually kills himself. He actually hangs himself in a psychiatric facility, I'm assuming, because I think his lawyers were pleading to an insanity cause for him admitting to the killing of Madame Zhu and all the other people that were victims of him as well, which was engineered by the father. And I love that the show is like doubling down, and the fact that the father, the eldest brother in the whole family tree to Do-hee, is just completely evil. Like, there's no ambiguity there whatsoever. Like, the character is just far gone, and he doesn't care what he takes in place, and he doesn't care who he destroys as long as he gets his central goal, and seemingly still caring about this goddamn company. And I find it really interesting that he is really the quote-unquote devil, even though Gu-won is the one that believes that he's the devil in the show, that he's the demon, yet is showing a lot more humanity than this supposedly human character, as far as we know, because the eldest brother stole that book of all the findings of what a demon is, all their strengths and weaknesses and all that, and he just seems to be raving in his, evil ways, right? And I just gotta commend the actors in this, especially the actor that plays the nephew. His psychological break was really, really alarming, especially in episode 12, and I just got like shivers down my spine. Like, he's just very, very intense, and I think it helps to counteract all of the other cutesy moments in the show. Mind you, I really love the flashback. I think it was very similar in the way Destined with You had like a flashback towards like the later part of the show to explain why there is this whole destiny and why these two characters come together. But for some reason, I enjoyed the portrayal of it a lot more in My Demon, and I did get to see the cute chemistry between them in their past lives. And you know what? I gotta say, like, Do-hee in the past life, I mean, with her in the sword dance, I could totally see why Gu-won would have this 200-year love for her and pretty much not entangle himself romantically with anyone else. Like, she was absolutely stunning in the Joseon era. Like, I'm like, wow, she's really stunning. But yeah, they have this flashbacks, but you do get the chemistry, and while it's a typical beat of, I was betrayed, they killed the love of my life, and now I have to kill everybody and avenge her death. I just enjoy the intensity that Song Kang was able to bring with that. And again, him bloody with him just wielding a sword, it does something for me. I like when he taps into that darkness, and he just looks completely like unhinged, especially with the showdown with him and the god in this episode as well. Like, when he told her, like, shut up, and he just gets that intense stare down into the camera, I was like, ooh, right? Like, the show really, I think it hits its stride when it kind of gets into that more sinister element. Yeah, I like the cutesier stuff too. I mean, Miss Shin, or the assistant for Do-hee, and her love story with the butler is always so funny. Like, fuck you. I think it's really funny, and the actress really does a good job in going back between being stoic and not showing a lot of emotion to be completely slapstick and crazy, and getting into the whole physicality of all the funnier, zany moments that this show is able to bring. But I do tend to like the darker elements, and I really do like the trope of he hates everyone but her and will burn down the entire world just for her love when it's executed well with a lot of chemistry. And I think Do-hee and Gu-won are bringing it, you know? There was a lot of sappy, saccharine moments, and I was like, oh yeah, that's cute, that's nice. But it was the darker elements that really hooked me. I see that Star Jin has finally got a grip on herself, so I'm glad that they're kind of resolving and wrapping up the storyline for that character, because she was extremely annoying. And I think this episode 12, really kind of send her off in a great way, and I kind of hope we leave it like that. Now, the second male lead, I still have yet to know his name. I still don't know why he's around. I don't know what's the point. I mean, I guess he's kind of has a truce with Gu-won, and Gu-won healed his fractured wrist. So I guess everything is kind of cool, but he still says he's going to keep a watchful eye on him, and I'm just kind of wondering as to why. Like, what is the point of this character still? I guess him and Star Jin were just supposed to be romantic foils, or supposedly maybe they were supposed to throw off the audience and actually make us think that they would be a threat to the romance of Gu-won and Do-hee. I never really saw them as that. I just saw them as annoying secondary characters that really don't serve a function unless there's going to be like a really big plot twist that we're not completely aware of yet, which, you know, there's still time for that. I think there's 16 episodes in total for this, so there's still some time to play around. And definitely at the end of the episode, that big cliffhanger with the meeting of Gu-won and Madame Ju definitely throws a wrench in things, and I think once Do-hee finds out about that, that's gonna get super duper spicy. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how they expand on that, and I am really looking forward to just how they're going to wrap this up. I hope they stick the landing. They're very close to the end, and this show has still captivated a lot of people. It's still highly popular, still trending. I see it constantly on Twitter, and I just hope they stick the landing, because I remember I was not impressed at all with Destined With You's ending. So I have a lot more faith in this show, especially because there's a lot of interesting callbacks. I've been noticing a couple of threads from watchers, and they've picked up on things like even like the color schemes in the show, and the first meeting of Do-hee and Gu-won, the color scheme was very similar to them in their past life, in their last meeting when, you know, Do-hee's past incarnation was killed off, and, you know, Gu-won went on that killing spree. Like the color palettes were very similar. So it seems like the writers for this show are really paying attention, and there's a lot of little details that we're not picking up on first watch, and it's going back and rewatching, we're seeing a little bit more and more, which is really cool for me. So in any case, I'm gonna wrap that up for this episode. Thank you for watching. If you are watching via YouTube, if you're listening via Spotify or Apple podcasts, I really appreciate you as well. I'm working on the audio piece, so hopefully it's sounding a little bit more clear and a little bit more polished. I'm gonna get the hang of that, and I got a lot more podcasts coming out of the pipeline. I've been very busy. This past week I've been slowly filming some stuff, and I look forward to delving into even more K-dramas, and I got some C-dramas on the back burner. There's a couple that I have to still watch and wrap up and give my final reviews for as well. So there's a lot going to be happening on this side. Okay, so until the next podcast episode, bye.